Congratulations on the first block, Simon. That's,
Oh, you got the first one?
Historical moment right there.
Thank you very much. I'm honored.
Okay, so I think that we can start now. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate phase one of the Moonbeam launch process, where like the first initial 24 collators were onboarded to Moonbeam. We have Art, Team, and Jill with us today from the Moonbeam team, and here is Kathy. I know that you have seen us all around Discord, so we are very happy to see some of your faces and have this space to talk with you. Before starting, I wanted to give some like housekeeping rules. So we have selected some of the questions that you put in your registration form when you like register for this AMA. We're going to start with those questions, but if you have any question in the meantime, or you want to like say any comment or add anything, feel free to unmute yourself. Like we just want to make this the most like open and informal chat, like we were all having like beers and coffee here. And yes, I love like do some noise, guys. So let's start. So first I want to start with a quick intro of Jill, Art, and Team. So Jill, why don't you start with your intro?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, I'm Jill. I'm sure we've talked at some point, most of you. I've joined PureStake almost a year ago, and ever since then, I've been helping onboard collators from Moonbase Alpha to Moonriver, and now finally Moonbeam. But it's nice to finally see some faces and talk to you guys.
Thank you. Art, you want to continue?
Sure, yeah. Well, I'm Art. I'm pretty sure I've spoken with most of you guys on Discord and the last presentation we did. But I'm Art. I'm from New York City. I've joined PureStake, I want to say 2.5 years ago at this point. Been doing a lot of work on, validators. I started with validators, and then of course when the parachains came, we sort of moved into the collators. But I run the DevOps team here, and you pretty much only see Gilles, but there's a whole bunch of us behind the scenes, making stuff happen. So
thank you, Art. And Team.
Yeah, everyone, I'm Tim Baldwin, VP Engineering. So I lead the DevOps practice and the web applications practice, which includes things that you may be familiar with, like the crowd loan and the staking application, come under my jurisdiction. I'm one of the first 2 employees at PureStake about 3 years ago. Started it up with Derek and a few other guys way back when. And I'm really excited for today and to talk to you all and celebrate this great launch.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And I'm Kathy. I run community for Moonbeam, and I'm excited now to like have more time to like create events for collators. And with like Jill, our team, we're planning to have like to launch more educational content for you guys, events like this for to do networking. So 2022 is definitely going to have a lot of excitement moments where we are all going to be able to connect more often. So let's kick off this AMA and start with the first question. So Moonbeam started its launch process on Friday for some people in this side of the world. For some people, it was on Saturday. So can you guys explain can you explain more about Moonbeam's launch process and how it's going to be the onboarding process for collators? I don't know.
Sure, yeah, I can take this one. So yeah, as you guys know, we launched on Friday with just some PureStake and some foundation collators. So we kept it nice and tight in case we need to do any sort of emergency fixes, things like that. We performed a runtime, I believe it was 1001, and all went smoothly. So then, the next phase was, phase 1, which we're in right now, which is bringing on the first 24 collators. And unlike Moonriver, we actually decided to do it in like one big chunk. So I think Moonriver before we did, maybe a few collators at a time. This time we thought it'd be a little more fair if everyone got in 2 phases. So that's what we're doing. Let's see. Next up, we're gonna be like this for a little while. I mean, it is right in the middle of the holidays, so we don't want to do too much exciting changes right in the middle of the holidays. So we're gonna basically run like this, pretty much steady state. The EVM is gonna remain off for the time being. Balance transfers are off, and then sometime in January, we're not sure, early January or mid-January, we're going to first onboard the remaining 16 collators. And if that is all well and good, then we're going to turn the EVM on soon after that. And the EVM is when, everything will happen. That's when, all the different projects can come join. We're going to see a lot of RPC traffic, maybe a lot of like congestion on the network, that kind of stuff. So we really want to make sure all the collators are performing well before we get started with that. And after that, it's a little more TBD. I don't want to get into too many details because we're not sure, but it's fairly open. So at that point, we're going to raise the minimum bond to get in to be 100,000 Glimmer. But then it's also open for any big whales to come in and collate, right? So it will be open for everybody, but hopefully you will have some nominations and stuff to back you up a little bit. The foundation will slowly reduce nominations like we did in Moon River, but in a way that we're not going to really impact anything, right? So the foundation really, one of their primary goals is stability of the network, along with the decentralization. But really, in the beginning, we want stability. So we want collators that know what they're doing, and that's what we have with you guys. So we're going to try to, we hope all you guys stay in the pool for as long as we can. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Art. So the next question here is, are there bonuses for early testing participants? And how many Moon River Collators are also early Moonbeam Collators?
So there are no bonuses for testnet participants. It's not we never had that intention, but we have used it to find collators who perform well and who are really into the project. And that's what we've done, with Moon River and with Moonbeam. So I wouldn't say that that's a bonus, but it is a perk, I guess, of being part of testnet. And Gilles, I'm not sure do you know how many Moon River collators are Moonbeam collators?
Yes. So out of the 40 selected collators, 60% are running Moon River nodes and 40% are completely new collators.
Yeah, that's a pretty good mix, actually. I mean, I like seeing people that are, already have done it in Moon River and, have know exactly what they're doing. It's also good to have some fresh new people in. So I think that's good. That's a good ratio for me.
Amazing. Thank you, Art. So we know that, as you mentioned, like based on the experience of Moon River, we learned so much. And now things have prepared us to a successful launch of Moonbeam, which is running very smoothly. So this is actually one of the questions that we received. How come everything runs smoothly? Maybe you can talk a little bit more about the Moon River experience.
Yeah, well, for sure. We've already done this before in Moon River, which you guys know. It was not quite as smooth. I think it went very well, but we were much more cautious there. We'd never done it before, but it really was a good sort of canary, a little test run for the real thing. I gotta say that the team here at PureStake, you guys I don't know if you interface with Alan as much, but him and the developers, they've done a really good job, just making this a pretty smooth process, like the upgrades. I think in Moon River we had a stall briefly due to some problems, right? But after that, you sort of learn from your mistakes and you make sure it's better the next time. So really, going through all this with Moon River and bringing people on board and experiencing all these performance problems we had and sort of working through them, I think that really helped to make this Moonbeam process much smoother. So now we know what type of hardware to have. We know a good failover strategy to use. We'll probably get into that a little bit later. But we learned a lot of stuff previously, and now it's almost on autopilot. So I don't know, Tim or Gilles, if you have anything to add there, but I think that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, I just think one other thing is off camera where you guys don't see it. We run many test networks. So we built and deployed and operated the equivalent of the early Moonbeam network several times before you even see it. So we're very confident that the infrastructure that we've set up on our side, the boot nodes, the RPCs, the collators that we're running, we know that we consider that to be the bedrock of the network and something that the team brings, and then we can add on the expert collator community to that. But we have a lot of practice in deploying that initial infrastructure.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So if we're going to the next category that we're going to talk a little bit about best practices and recommendations for collators, does anyone in the room have any follow-up question about the Moonbeam launch process or collators onboarding? You can put your question in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself. I guess I'll take silence as a no. Okay, so let's go to the next part. Okay, so let's talk about best practices and recommendations for collators. What are the best practices for monitoring and automatic failover?
Jill, you want to take the one, or I can do it?
Yeah, sure. I can take over.
All right.
We for Moonriver, we have made a video of best practices, but I can go over a bit some of those things again. For monitoring is pretty much the most important part. We usually have been recommending Grafana. It's a tool that's widely used and it's reasonably simple to use. It has some steep learning curve, but it's reasonably accessible. So we recommend using Grafana Cloud, which is free and anyone can use. You can connect it to something that will alert you. Grafana and Grafana Cloud have alert managers that you can connect to, for example, PagerDuty, which is also free. For automatic failover, it's a bit trickier. It's not as necessary because if you have a good monitoring and are alerted of when a failover is required, you can do it manually. And it's, of course, much better to not be producing box for like a few minutes than accidentally being double signing your box. So, but you can also do automatic failover. And I know some people in this community, such as DVN, Ioannis, made some guides that you can check. And this actually comes into something that we are probably going to ask you in the future, which is some help creating tools and like even sharing dashboards with us that we can share with the Collateral community. So we might talk about this in the future. I'm not sure if we'll be talking about this in this AMA, but we'll see. Yeah, that's, if anyone has any questions, you can just ask.
Awesome. Anything else to add here, Art or team, for best practices or recommendations?
I mean, for monitoring, I completely agree. Grafana Cloud is pretty well established. It gives you a lot of good metrics. You know, not only to know if you've stopped producing blocks, it has alerts for that, but also just, you know, how your machine is performing. You know, is it falling behind? Is it, you know, did your colo provider reboot the machine on you? Like all these little things you can find out. And even when you know, the transaction queue gets high, you can sort of dig in a little bit to see how the, you know, the CPU and the memory are doing. So it's really great. We are, I believe, Kathy, we are going to do another discussion on just on this, on best practice for monitoring and failing over. So we'll get into more details there, but really the key is just to, you know, as long as you hook up Grafana and, you know, so let me step back. The Moonbeam process will automatically output some Prometheus metrics, right? So all you really need to do from Grafana Cloud, you can run this, I think it's called the Grafana agent. If you go into the portal, it sort of shows you how to do it. You can click around, it'll give you a little setup. Hopefully some people can post some configs or something, but pretty much you run it also on your bare metal box, and it just looks at that local Prometheus port, and it ships up those metrics up to Grafana Cloud. And then from there, you got to make your dashboards. But again, we're going to go through that and probably have some, maybe we'll get like a community dashboard together where, you know, we can use it for not only Moonbeam, but for all Collators in the ecosystem. Maybe something nice to get back to everybody. And then as far as failover, I would say, yeah, we do it manually over here. We just have monitoring and we make a decision if this machine is having trouble. It's a human intervention to actually make the failover. And we did this mainly because we started with Polkadot and Kusama, and then if that, we were really worried about double signing. It's not quite as bad as a collator, but it's still something we just try to avoid. So in that case, you got to make sure the primary is not producing anymore. I think the term is shoot it in the head. So you make sure that the primary is completely down and not producing anymore, and then you can fail over to the secondary. And maybe if we have time, I don't know, I could go through it a little bit. What we like to do is have, I've sort of discussed this already, but we like to have two servers running, which is full. Let me step back. So you have a primary and a secondary machine. You're running on your primary. Like the only thing you do, you don't actually copy the key from the primary to the secondary. What you do is you actually have different Nimbus keys on each one. And then what I do is I put them somewhere safe, maybe let's say LastPass, right? So you'll say, you know, server 1 has this key, this Nimbus key, server 2 has this Nimbus key. And then all you got to do is you go on chain and you make that author mapping update association call. and then you can just flip it from the chain. So you could be anywhere. You don't have to be near your box. You can just say, okay, the primary is not working. Let me send this extrinsic in, and it'll fail it over to secondary. So that actually is something I think people should try out now this week before the EVM turns on, and just make sure your secondary node is actually working and producing blocks. So once you ensure that your primary is producing blocks now, go ahead and run that extrinsic, and then see if your secondary will pick it up. And if not, it's not a big deal. You can flip back and figure out the problem. So that's pretty much it. I mean, again, we are going to go into more detail at a later event.
Yeah, just to add to that, this is also why we recommend setting up a proxy for auto mapping, because with these proxies, the one you actually use to do this rotation of the Nimbus keys, or well, the auto session key. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't see any questions on proxy. Kathy, do we get any? I mean, we can talk about it at the end. If,
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, just adding to what Art says, we have 2 training sessions coming up for early 2022. It's going to be one about tools for monitoring, and the other one is going to be security best practices. So we're going to be sharing the links with you guys, so we can, connect more details of that. But in the meantime, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat. So the next question here is, what is more important for the efficient operation of the collator, performance or location in alternative geographic regions?
It's a good question. I mean, I'm going to say both. That's the cop-out answer. But I guess in more detail, right now we're really interested in performance. There are some upcoming changes, mainly that Parity is doing, but our developers are also working on it. But that's not coming for a little bit, it's a little bit down the road. It's a few months. I'm not actually sure how long it is. But the thing is, we're launching the EVM in January, and that might not come out for a few more months. We're worried that, depending on popularity and how much usage we get, we're going to be running into performance problems in the beginning. So right now, I would say we're very interested in performance. And I want to say, I guess, after we sort of tackle that problem and it's no longer an issue, then we'll probably do a little bit more focus on geographical location and spreading out. We did notice, I don't have any sort of inside scoop, but it does look like Parity is also doing something similar about geographic location. They're at least tracking it now. So that may mean that they would like people to spread out as well. The thing for collators is you want to be close to the validators. So we if they spread out, then maybe it's good that we spread out as well, but we'll have to test that out. But in general, like I said, as long as you're in a different country and a different colo provider, then you should be good as far as sort of decentralization, right? Because then any one provider, any one country can't sort of take out a large portion of the network. Although I think, as people said, if Hetzner goes down, I think Polkadot and Kusama are going to have a lot of trouble too. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Art. And the next question, I think that you guys already covered it a little bit, because it's talking about more like general tools that you recommend for collators. So maybe you want to also respond to the question about proxy, Art, that you mentioned before.
Yeah, Jill, are there any other tools you want to recommend here? And then I could launch into proxies after that.
Not that I can think of, but some tools that have been made for the community. I can't remember the name of it right now, and that's my bad, but I know some people have done monitoring tools that make the process of monitoring your collator node easier. And yeah, just general tools that are made by the community and are posted on Discord. I just can't remember the name right now, so that's my bad.
Okay. I did take some notes. Give me one sec so I can find them on my proxy.
Awesome. So in the meantime, guys, if you think of any topic you want us to do a training session in the future, like the monitoring tools and security was all based on the collators request. So we're open to get more ideas and suggestions to make more events for you. So Art, do you want to continue with proxy? Okay.
Yep, I found it. Okay. Let's see. So we did post like a basic set of instructions on like how to do it, like the mechanics of it. So I'm not going to go over that. We can repost that link shortly, but that's really like the mechanics of actually like doing the extrinsics and which account to use where. What I do want to talk about is what sort of like the strategies you could use to secure your accounts. So let me see. So the real goal here is to get like the most secure account offline in cold storage, right? And that would be your collator account, because that's the one where, you know, it's important for the network security. It's important, you know, obviously it makes a lot of glimmer. So it might be a high value target for someone to sort of to take, right? So the best thing, you know, really in crypto, the best thing you can do is keep these keys completely offline. And by that I mean, like, on your machine, you can have it loaded up into, say, Poker.js, and that would be like a hot online account, right? That means anytime someone comes in, or anytime, if you get hacked, they'll see that and they can sort of take it. They'll have all the keys and everything they need to do to sort of take a lot of your money and make your life pretty difficult. So what the goal is, I guess the gold standard is you have that collator account completely offline, and then you set up proxy accounts to do everything else you need to do without sort of, with basically minimizing the risk of someone stealing your funds or unbonding your collator or things like that. So I sort of posted this, I guess it was Friday at this point, or maybe it was Saturday. What I recommend, there's a couple ways to do it, but what I would recommend right now is everyone take, you know, the proxy account that we funded, or that the foundation has funded. You could take that and you make that a author mapping proxy. And what that does is it only allows you to sort of fail over between your primary and your secondary, right? It lets you use anything in that section, in the extrinsics, the author mapping. So you can add a key, remove a key, or update your key, right? And that's really the primary thing you're going to need to do between now and when the EVM goes live is sort of fail over if you stop producing blocks, right? So you have this principle of least privilege on this account where it only does that one specific thing, right? So then you can leave that one online safely. And really the worst thing they could do is sort of take your collator offline temporarily, but you can pretty much quickly just revoke that proxy, set up another one, and do the same thing. So that won't help you move the funds or do anything with the funds that are coming into your collator. But it doesn't matter because balance transfers aren't enabled until January. So there's not much you can do with them anyway. You could bond more if you want. But the downside of that is, as Joe mentioned on Discord, is that when we increase the minimum bond from, was it 10,000 to 100,000, you could, I believe you can add up until that point, you can keep adding. But once that change goes through, you're gonna get stuck. So all that stuff you put in there will actually be stuck bonded. You won't be able to pull it back for any reason because you won't have enough to make that 100,000 bond, right? So really, I recommend, you know, if you're at risk of leaving the pool, sure, you can bond more. But in general, I would say just leave it, even leave that collator key offline. And then when balance transfers in the EVM is turned on, then you send a little bit to another proxy account. And then you're going to set up what's called a balances proxy. And what that does, it lets you only send money. You can set up a delay on that. I'll get that in a minute. But really, the reason to do the balances only is because they can't unbond, right? They can't unbond your collator. If someone comes in there and just says, or even makes a mistake and says, oh, I need to unbond for this reason, after the switch to 100,000 glimmer, you're not going to be able to get back in unless you put up 100,000 glimmer, right? So it's very important that you guys don't go offline. You can sort of chill, which is like a temporary, I don't want to collate temporarily, and then you go back to the waiting pool, right? And then you can get back in when you're ready. But doing this balances one will let you sort of sweep the funds. So we could set up an automated process that basically always sends funds from your collator to, let's say, like a ledger supported account, right? So we'll just sweep everything there. Maybe we'll leave one glimmer for transaction fees, but in general, it'll just sweep everything else. It'll get the latest balance and it'll send that only to one address. And then you can set up some sort of alerts. There's multiple ways to do it. We'll probably get into it in more detail, but you know, there's subquery. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. That if that account, or if your collator account ever sends anything to an account that is not the account you designate on this sort of whitelist, then it would pop an alert. It would go to PagerDuty or something. It would wake you up, and then you can, you know, you'll know that someone had hacked you, and you could quickly go like disable that account. But the fact that you've been sweeping the funds all the time, let's say daily, there's not going to be that much on there that's available to them. So you're really minimizing the amount of funds that they have access to, right? They could take one day's worth, but that's not the end of the world, right? You just don't want them to take the whole thing, or you know, even worse, like a huge amount. And then finally, yeah, kind of going a long time here, but the delay is also a little tricky, but the delay, you need an additional 100 Glimmer bond to set it up. But what it does is you'll sort of schedule it. So the proxy account will say, I want to send funds to the ledger device, right? But it'll send that to the blockchain, and then it will wait a certain amount of blocks, like let's say like 2 days, right? So you could say it's from when you see it on the blockchain to when it's actually executed is the delay, right, in blocks. So that would give you enough time for your monitoring to pick up this bad transaction that's pending, and then you can go in there and you can revoke it with the main account before is scheduled, right? So in that case, you wouldn't even lose that 1 day's worth of funds. I think that's it. I mean, I do want to save some more for the actual proxy presentation, but that's pretty much it. I think that'll get us through the EVM launch and the go live in January. So I hope that's helpful.
Awesome. Thanks, Art. So before going to the next category, that is roadmap for 2022 for Moonbeam and the Collators community, does anyone here have any question related to like best practices or tools that you guys want to ask? I think like Art and Jill and team cover a lot of things, so I'm not surprised there are no more questions. Okay, so let's move to the next category, roadmap for 2022. What's the roadmap for 2022 for the Moonbeam network, guys? Who wants to tackle this question?
Tim, you want to tackle that one?
How about this? I'm not going to tackle the full thing, right? So there's a lot of different things going on. I know Alan, our excellent VP of blockchain engineering, is in the chat here as well, and you know, he's driving a lot of that. I think in the near to short term, one of the projects we're most excited about is bringing XCM to Moon River and then Moonbeam in the coming months, and that'll allow for the transfer of assets or in between the different from the relay chains to the parachains and in between the parachains, and that's been under development for a while. It's actually been very tricky, and there's multiple different teams involved and a lot of coordination, and I think that's one of the things we're most excited about. On the performance front, we've been driving, and you guys have really helped overall drive the performance, and I think there's a number of initiatives that have come out of that with Parity, where we're looking forward to improvements in the networking architecture with them to increase performance on our network, as well as the improvement of performance that we'll get when things like the block time are lowered and when the contextual execution comes in. And we're really excited to see the capabilities of the system as they unfold. But stay tuned for more on the roadmap. I think that'll be coming. We'll be talking more about that once we get through this phase 2 in the EVM launch. And I think then once that's out and it's stabilized, we'll be talking again about projects we're working with and about the features that the network will have.
Awesome. And just adding here from the ecosystem and community perspective, we're going to continue investing in new people to join the team because the ecosystem and integrations are going to start deploying to Moon River and Moonbeam. So definitely a good problem to have. We're definitely looking forward to onboard more teams that will increase the portfolio of tools. And on the community perspective, the good news is that we're going to invest on more face-to-face events. We are planning to do an ecosystem, I would say, showcase event where you're going to be able to see all the partners and projects that are right now in the Moonbeam ecosystem. But besides that, we also want to do more networking events with our community around the world. So that means that the Moonbeam team will be traveling more. We're going to be visiting some countries where we have the biggest communities. So if you guys are around, you're more than welcome to come. And like Tim said, we're going to share more details about that, but we are definitely very excited. I'm so excited to finally meet the people that I've been talking with a whole year, and be able to connect with them. Okay, so let's move to the next question. When will it be possible for external collators to join the active set?
Yeah, right. So this one is pretty straightforward. It's when the EVM is live in early mid-January is when it opens up for everybody to join. But at that same time, we're going to increase the bond to 100,000 Glimmer. So you will need to be self-funded at that point, or anyone for that matter needs to be self-funded, but it's open for anyone to come in. And just like any sort of distributed proof of stake, you need to have the most, the people with the most funds, or let's say the top X, which is right now going to be 40 at launch, EVM launch. You need to have more than the lowest person to get in. So it's pretty much the same as a lot of these other networks.
Art, question on that. Is the foundation involved in bonding to third-party collators to kind of boost the ones that they want to see in the active set, or is the foundation kind of a standoff mode?
They're going to be pretty hands-off unless there's some sort of performance or other major reason why they would need to step in. So, I mean, I'm not going to speak for them, but from what I've heard is, they want to be as hands-off as possible, but they do need to make sure the network is up and stable. So I would say I would not expect anything like that unless there's a problem.
Got it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And thank you, Jason, for your question. Okay, so next question is, when can collators begin with staking collators rewards?
Let's say the same thing when the EVM launches. It's sort of, I mean, I'm not gonna say free for all, but it's pretty close, right? You can sort of, a lot of things are unlocked at that point. So for now, in this sort of preliminary phase 1 time, we just want to keep everything, nice and smooth, and as we planned it out. So we don't want any sort of staking to adjust any sort of orders. So again, yeah, as soon as EVM turns on, go ahead and stake. I mentioned this in the forums. I'll mention here again, though. I recommend, instead of bonding more on your collator, that you instead send the funds to a more secure account, let's say a ledger account, and then use that account as a delegator. So you'll get the same rewards, but you'll have more flexibility because you can delegate different collators much easier, and you have more control over it. So it will get kind of stuck if you bond more. So I recommend delegating instead from a different account.
Awesome. Thank you, Art. So the next question is, do you plan to increase the max delegator count per collator, given the efficiency gains from the new unstaking process?
Yes, it is planned. I'm not sure exactly when. I would say, in the next few runtimes, we're going to increase that. We don't have the exact details on how much. It is related to a couple factors. We want to make sure there's not too many, right? If there's too many, it's a problem. So we need to either slowly increase, or we need to calculate better the number. But yes, it will increase maybe in the next 1 or 2 runtimes. I'm just not sure when.
Awesome. And the last question, this is more related about like differences between the Moonbeam roadmap and the launch of Moonriver. So I know that we talked a little bit about these, but I don't know if you guys want to go more into detail about like how has been like the launch process differences for Moonriver, and how would be like the roadmap difference for Moonbeam after all the experience that we have learned from Moonriver.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I could take this. Let's see. So really, Moonriver was a it was planned. It just was a lot more carefully done. We went a lot slower rolling on the collators. We took a lot more time between sort of the initial launch and even bringing on the first ones. Honestly, I don't even think collators were ready as quickly as they were this time. So I do remember asking people to get ready, like, or keep DMing them to be ready in time so I could nominate them and then get them into the set. This time it was much more smooth. We had it planned. I think all the collators knew exactly what to do and when to do it. So really, it was just this sort of condensed, more efficient rollout process. And again, I mean, Alan, the developers, like, they have this down as well from their side. How to perform runtime upgrades and the whole DevOps process around sort of rolling them out through all our test networks. Just made it a lot smoother. Like, we know what to expect. We have a very good chance of not breaking the network, not stalling the network. And actually, now I remember last time Parity had changed their runtime between the time when we submitted our Genesis to when it actually went live. So we needed to do like this really tricky runtime upgrade on like the first block. That's no longer the case. So really, I think it's just a much smoother, more polished process than we had before. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going for a third, but if we do, it'll be even smoother, right?
Amazing, thank you. So we have finished with a list of questions that we received from the registration form. I don't know if you guys, like now we're gonna just open these for questions or any comment that you guys have. So feel free to unmute yourself or put the question in the chat. No questions. Okay,
No.
that's okay.
I got a question. I got a question.
Love that. Yes, Jason.
Yeah, first, guys, just want to say thanks so much to the team. You've really been amazing in helping us get launched. And I say that to the Collator team as well. The rest of the it really does feel like a community. It's been incredibly welcoming to us as fairly new to this group. So I just want to say thanks to the team and the other Collators here. Question for the team. What, other than just running the Collator, what else can we do to help support the network, promote the network, and be good participants?
I mean, really continue what you guys are doing. I think you're doing a great job. The key, as I mentioned before, is this performance. I think everybody really understood that and got some really top quality hardware, which will help us out in this interim time between when we get these more changes in. You know, really just keeping up on the Discord, really being part of the community is going to be really helpful. You know, I think, you know, it really is a great community there. I love to see everybody, you know, responding and answering everyone's questions if people have a help or ask for help. Really, I mean, I want to call out, I remember someone offered, you know, to run a backup node for someone briefly while they were stalled or they had an issue with their primary. So, you know, things like that, just really reaching out and being part of the community is really what we're looking for.
So, we'll also be reaching out to the community to ask for more help, but I think more information about that will be coming soon. But yeah, continue being amazing and doing the work that you've been doing. It's been great working with all of you.
And I'll just put in, right, so the Moonbase Alpha remains important, you know, and if you want to be an involved collator, please keep your collator on Moonbase Alpha. We'll be doing tests there. We'll plan different performance events. That's kind of the first place that our runtime upgrades hit, where our client upgrades hit. So being involved there and being aware of what's happening there is going to be critical for the long-term health of the ecosystem.
So can I ask a question? It came up this morning in the Discord. It kind of glossed by fairly quickly, but it was, I thought, a great observation from SenseLost that maybe we should investigate having some control over the population of Kusama validators that we're dependent on for our own performance. And I thought, well, maybe that would be a place we could look at. I don't know what the restrictions are, what the relationship is with DOT and Kusama, but if we had an opportunity to somehow select from a known pool of validators instead of randomly from any validator, then we could at least address our own performance issues. We'd be in some control around that. Just thought I'd throw that out and see what you guys were thinking in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, this is more of a question for Alan. I know he interfaces with Parity a lot on these performance problems. But I want to say with this, it used to be called contextual execution. It's called something else now, but with that, a lot of these problems should go away. There's a lot more time to communicate and to gossip the block around. And it doesn't make it like synchronous. You don't have to wait. You know, it's not as ordered as now. So a lot of these problems should go away at that point. I know we have spoken to him, or at least Alan has spoken to him about things like optimizing their binary, which I think they started to do, and also really maybe even look at the hardware that some of their validators are running. I don't know how they're planning to tackle it, but I hope that they do. I know some validators are probably running not so great hardware, so that, you know, there will be a point where, you know, since we all have top hardware, that we were going to be sending these proof of validity messages to them. They're too big for them to do in time. So yeah, it's definitely something for the future. We may see it briefly when we first launch in January before contextual execution gets in. But for now, yeah, it is more like we need parity to really help out here and help us get this performance up.
Yeah, and I'll just note, Moon River it's the success of Moon River that really kind of opened up this understanding that maybe the Kusama validators, need to up their game after we upped our game, right? So those limits didn't really come into focus until Moon River really got under pressure from a very active ecosystem. And then that kind of trickled up, and then we were looking at it, we did the tests, we were looking at all the different phases and where the pressure points were. And that's, kicked off Alan working with Parity around, a lot of these issues. So I don't know if we'll get to the point where we can pre-select our own validators, but we are already at the point where, the work that we're doing is influencing the evolution of the network.
Awesome. Thank you, team. And I have a question here from Daniel in the chat. When will we see support from ARM64 CPU?
I will
I'm
definitely
not
leave
sure.
that
That
to
was definitely an
Alan.
Alan question.
That's an Alan question.
We'll
If
get
Alan's
an
in the
answer.
chat, he can answer. Otherwise, we could take that one to Discord.
Yeah, I think we should move that one to Discord. I think Alan is in the team meeting. But okay, great. Let me see if there are any other questions here. No, in the chat. So okay, so I just want to echo what Lucas said. Congratulations to all active collators that were already onboarded today, and congrats to the ones that are going to be onboarding on phase 2. So let's wrap up the call if there are no more questions. I don't know if you, Art, team, or Yale have any final thoughts for the collators community. Art, you want to start?
No,
Any-
I mean, go ahead, Jill. You go.
Okay, yeah. So as someone who's been, working with all of these collators since the beginning, of course, some of you haven't been here in the beginning, but I know some of you have, and some of you have been joining recently, but even then, all of you have been super supportive of each other and also us. Every request that we made was quickly answered, and all the performance tests that we had to do, you guys were there to help us. So I think this community is one of the best I've ever seen, and I want to thank you all for helping us. And yeah, thanks.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jill. Art?
Yeah, I mean, I almost want to say the same thing. I'm very happy for this community. I've seen in other communities, they're just not nearly as helpful, or they're almost adversarial. And it's really great that we have such a strong team of collators, and they're really into the project and really want to help it succeed. So again, thanks to those slangs like that, we really couldn't do this without you.
Amazing, thank you. And team?
Well, all the good points have already been taken, but no, it is an honor to be a part of a really active, engaged community like this one. It's very unusual, as other people have noted. I'm active in a number of different blockchains and communities, and even to get somebody to come up with the best practices is rare. So this is, the kind of tooling and the kind of involvement and the help that you got offered to each other. It's very unusual, and I'm really glad that you're here, and I'm really glad that you're going to be a part of the success of these networks. Thank you again. And It's been an amazing year. So, this is 1 year, right? So, what a crazy year, and thank you all for that.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you, everyone. It's very exciting to go to the collators chat and see how you all help each other and comment and recommend things and everything. So definitely a very exciting community. I see that Alan has joined the chat, so I'm going to make one question for you, Alan. What do you think the collators community should expect in 2022?
What they should expect
Yes.
for 2022? All right, some difficulties, but also some good, I think, documentation and improvement to make things a bit safer. Yeah, one of the big things that's going to happen is the contextual execution, which is an improvement over the actual block production system, but we expect it to be kind of disruptive, at least at the beginning, especially on AlphaNet. So we hope we'll solve all the problem before going to Moonbeam. But the thing is that right now you get a parachain block that is attached to a relay block, and it's easy to know that once you get a new relay block, you have to produce the next parachain one, basically. This will completely change, and it will allow a lot more of execution time, because parachain block will be able to be spread for longer amount of time, basically. And that will come with networking difficulties also, and synchronization between the relay and the parachain, because it will be a lot more complex. So we'll definitely rely on you guys also to help us on solving those difficulties. I mean, we'll work a lot with Parity, but they also trust us a lot in terms of experiments and being able to provide feedback on how parachain is working. They've seen that with Moonriver, the actual usage, and also all the changes we try to do in the binary itself, in the protocol, and all the optimization helped a lot for them to understand what was really happening and how they can improve actually the Kusama and later the Polkadot network. So we have a lot more to do on that side. And thank you all for participating and helping and providing feedback, and also testing the new changes we're providing. So that's very very nice to see such a reactive and collaborative community. And yes, and more features and more things will come, but that's on the roadmap.
Amazing. Thank you, Alan. Thank you for joining us too. I know that you were super busy today, so I really appreciate you being with us today. So thank you, everyone. I just want to say thank you for all the amazing things that you're doing for us, for the network in the Collators community. That is one of my favorite communities in Moonbeam. Thank you for all your excitement in the chat. My dog also appreciates that you call him cute. And again, let's continue with this energy. Let's look forward for next year. And thank you for joining us, and happy holidays to everyone. Bye, guys.
Great. See you
Happy
guys.
holidays, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.